Hello there, welcome to the video. Today we'll be doing a recap of a 2001 romance drama titled Malena. Grab yourself some popcorn, sit back and enjoy the video. As the movie begins, we are quickly introduced to Renato from Italy. Renato is a young boy full of life. Renato just got gifted a new bicycle, and he is really excited. He does not waste time before he rides the bike to meet and show off to his friends. He meets up with his friends, and all of them go to sit at the beach. Not long after, they see a beautiful woman from a distance. This is the most beautiful woman they've seen in their lives, and they are wildly fascinated by her beauty. Renato is the most fascinated and captivated. The woman's name is Malena, and she is the daughter of Professor Bosinor, the Latin teacher at the boys' school. As Malena passes by them, the boys follow her. They want to catch more glimpses of her beauty. Later we see Renato in Professor Bosinor's class, but at the same time, he is barely in the class as he spends the whole time daydreaming about Malena. He just can't get over her, and later that day, he does not hesitate to argue with one of his friends when he talks about Malena in a way he does not appreciate. The friends mock him for standing up for her like that, but Renato genuinely does not care as he is now obsessed with Malena. In fact, the next day, he does not go to school. He instead goes to Malena's house just to spy on her. First, he daydreams about both of them talking, but snaps back to reality and sees that the doors to her house are locked. Back at home, his dad somehow finds out about Renato skipping school, and he fights Renato because of this. He throws things at him and beats him up, but none of this matters because that same night, Renato goes back to Malena's house. Of course, the doors are locked, but he is desperate, obsessed, and now has an idea. He climbs a tree, and with the height advantage, he is able to peep through a hole in the window, and he sees Malena lying on a couch. She gets up and walks around, and Renato, with his eyes, follows her. That's when he sees a picture of her and Nino Scordia, her husband. Nemo is a soldier, but as the Second World War is currently happening, he is currently on a mission in Africa. Malena then turns on the radio and listens to a song. The next day, Renato goes to a salon to get a haircut. There, he hears the other men talk about Malena and her husband Nino. When it is time for his cut, the barber directs him to He is not happy about this as he wants to sit where the older men are, but the barber tells him that he is still a kid. After the haircut, he heads to Malena's house again to do more spying. This time, he is more equipped to spy more effectively. He is with a telescope. With the telescope, he sees her sitting by the garden, drying herself. She's looking more beautiful than ever, but Renato wants to gaze more. He stays there all day. She sees her working with a sewing machine. He patiently watches the whole process. When she's done, she stands up and dances with a picture of her husband before retreating to her room where Renato's watchful eyes can no longer see her. The next day, Renato goes to the store to buy a copy of the song that Malena danced to the previous day. He gets back home and listens to the song while looking at pictures of other women and touching himself. The next day in class, he hears some of his classmates talking about Malena in a way he does not appreciate. As expected, he takes offense to this, and after the class, he waits till they go downstairs and he spits on them from up. Now he's acting like her protector. Later that day, he sees Malena walking down the street. All the men stare in awe and the women in disgust caused by jealousy. With everyone staring, Malena is ashamed and she walks with her gaze down. Some men try to talk to her, but she does not answer anyone as she's too shy to look up. But the one time that she looks up, she locks her gaze with an army officer, Lieutenant Katie. Lieutenant Katie is also good-looking and is thirsted over by the women in the area. Renato later goes to fix his bike, and once again he sees Malena passing by. This time he follows her. On getting to her house, he climbs a gate and he notices that Malena is not alone. He then sees that the other person is her father. The next day, news breaks out that Malena's husband and one true love, Nino, died in battle. Later, we see Renato at Nino's funeral. That night, he goes to Malena's house again and he sees her crying, mourning her dead husband. He then imagines him by her side, comforting her and telling her that he will be by her side forever. In his imagination, she hugs him tightly after he comforts her and assures her, but it's just an imagination. He snaps back to reality. Later, we see Malena dressed and portrayed like Mary. Mary, the mother of Jesus, and her husband's funeral. Malena looks very sad and exhausted. Renato sees her, and from his face, we see that he is genuinely worried for her well-being. After the whole program, Renato is in something like a bar, and he hears some men there talking badly about Malena. He spits in their drinks and even goes as far as urinating on their bags. He then goes to the church to pray to one of the saints, asking him to protect Malena from the cruelty of the people. Now we see he is not infatuated by her, but now sees himself as a protector. He does not want anything bad to happen to her and won't think twice before hurting anyone who hurts her directly or indirectly. One time, she shatters the window of a shop when he hears some men there talk badly about Malena. One day, Renato grabs one of Malena's panties that she washed and left to dry. He takes it back home, places it over his face, and touches himself. As he does this, he imagines him and Malena together. He sleeps off in this state, with the panties still on his face. He is woken up by this angry father who came to the room to see the panties on his son's face. He beats him, and when the matter gets to other parts of his family, they scold him also and lock him in his... He remains in the room and does not eat for days. He is let out when a doctor comes by and advises that he is set free. Immediately he is let out. He takes his bike, and I'm sure you already know where he rode to. A rumor that Malena has started sleeping with different men starts spreading around the whole town. Malena's dad hears the rumor and is greatly displeased. In the night, Renato goes for business as usual, but this time he is shocked. He sees Malena with Lieutenant Katie. As Lieutenant Katie leaves, he and Malena kiss goodnight. This shatters Renato's heart. Right outside Malena's house, Lieutenant Katie meets Dr. Samano. The doctor claims that Malena is his fiancée and wants to know what Lieutenant Katie was doing in Malena's house. Both men fight until the police come to arrest them both. The news spreads like wildfire and everyone starts accusing Malena of having two lovers. Imagine what this did to Malena's already dented image. In fact, her dad had to resign and abandon Malena. Next, we see Malena in court. She is being accused of swindling two men, the men that the police caught fighting over her. As the trial goes on, Renato watches. In court, Malena claims that the doctor was also falsely claiming to be her fiancé after he visited once to deliver drugs to her father and for the lieutenant. She does not see why the matter should be talked about in court, as her personal relationship does not concern the law. The judge then told her that Lieutenant Katie got transferred BA of this case, but he dropped a written statement. In that statement, Lieutenant Katie makes it clear that he and Malena only had a casual relationship, nothing romantics. This hurts Malena as she feels betrayed and used, but on the bright side, this helps her win the case. Later that night, Renato goes to spy again, and he sees the lawyer forcing Malena to pay with her body instead of cash. The next day, an angry Renato rushes to the church to take it out on the saint that he prayed to for Malena's protection. He is not happy the saint did not protect Malena, and he breaks the saint's hand. Remember, the Second World War is still on. One day, the Allied troops arrive through the air and start bombing parts of the town. Everyone runs and tries to escape, but not everyone is able, and Malena's dad was one of the unlucky ones. He died in this attack, and during his funeral, Renato was present. With all the important men in Malena's life dead, and no one ready to give her a job because of her bad reputation, she goes into prostitution, but she serves the Germans mainly. One day, Renato watches her enter the vehicle of the German soldiers, and just the thought of the things Malena is doing with them makes him faint. His parents take him to church as his mom thinks that he is possessed by, but Renato's dad thinks there's a better cure. He wants Renato to sleep with another woman. Maybe that will help him get over Malena. He takes the boy to a brothel and hands him over to one of the prostitutes there. Although Renato sleeps with her, he still thinks of Malena. The next day, Malena gets viciously attacked by other women, still out of jealousy. She can't take this stigma another, and she leaves the town for good. Renato silently watches her leave. Then we see Nino, Malena's husband, arrive. Turns out he didn't die. He gets to the house hoping to meet his wife, but he sees that the house is not home to displaced people. He asks around for his wife, but one answers. Renato then writes a letter to Nino, telling him where she is. He also included that Malena stayed faithful to him all through. Nino is the only man aside from himself that Renato wants to see with Malena. Nino receives the letter and also leaves town in search of his wife. 1 year later, Nino and Malena return. Everyone watches them return, and for the first time, the women there no longer longer see Malena as a threat and they let her have the normal life she always wanted. Days after, we see Malena accidentally drop some oranges on her way back home. Not surprisingly, Renato was around, but for the first time, he approaches her. He helps her pack the oranges and wishes her good luck before riding his bike away. This is the first and last time Renato talks to Malena, the woman he loves more than anything in the world. And the story comes to an end here. Let me know what you think about it. That's it for today's video. Leave a comment if you like the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.